August 2025, Jerome Powell woke up to the worst headline of his career. For 7 straight months, he warned you, me, and every American that Donald Trump's tariffs were going to crush our economy, spike the inflation, and send prices through the roof. But today the numbers are in, and not only was Powell dead wrong, not only did inflation drop, but the very tariffs that he tried to tear down are now funding the largest Mexico cartel takedown in U.S. history. This is the kind of operation that doesn't just send a message. It changes the balance of power on our southern border forever. And right now, Mexico's president is scrambling, trying to save face after publicly declaring no U.S. invasion, even as Trump's military green light put cartel strongholds directly in their crosshairs. So how did we get here? How did Jerome Powell go from lecturing the country about Trump's reckless tariffs to watching those tariffs bankroll the war chest for a historic national security victory? Oh, and why are foreign producers, not the American people, the ones eating the cost of Trump's economic strategy? Well, stick with me because we're about to break this all down. The hard proof that literally blew Jerome Powell's theory to pieces, the intelligence that Trump's team is using to choke off cartel operations, and of course, the behind the scenes moves that could force Mexico to quietly cooperate even after that defiant no invasion statement. So trust me, by the end of today's video, you're going to understand exactly why Jerome Powell is panicking and why this moment here might be remembered as the day that Trump proved that the America First blueprint actually works, both in the marketplace and on the battlefield. So this morning's numbers changed everything. The brand new CPI report just dropped, and annual inflation, 2.7%. So not only is that lower than economists predicted, it's far below the sky is falling scenario that Jerome Powell has been warning about and preaching about and praying about for nearly 7 months straight. Now, let's be clear. For months, Powell and his every expert you can name crowd told America that Trump's tariffs would set off an inflation time bomb. I mean, we were told prices were going to rise month after month after month. We were told that the cost of living would explode. We were told the American people, you know, would be the ones that are paying the bill. Well, it didn't happen. Not even close. Instead, prices in key sectors are stable or they're falling. The exact opposite of what Powell promised. So now the question is unavoidable. Was this just bad economics, or was Powell's very public prediction part of a deeper political hostility toward Donald Trump's America First agenda? Because make no mistake, today isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet. This is about the moment when Jerome Powell's credibility meets cold, hard data. And it's not looking good for the Fed chair. And that data doesn't just prove him wrong, it's fueling something much bigger. Something that has the cartels and Mexico's president watching Washington with growing concern. Now, wait until you see how these tariffs become the foundation of the largest cartel takedown in U.S. history. If you appreciate the updates, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much, guys. So here's the part that they never wanted you to understand. Trump's tariffs, they were never designed to squeeze the American consumer. They were designed to squeeze foreign producers, especially China and Japan, and to also force them to eat the cost if they wanted access to the U.S. market. And now we have proof that it is working. New data is showing import car prices from Japan. They're down nearly 15%, a sector that Powell himself said would be hit hardest by tariffs. So instead of spiking, prices have dropped for the first time in years. And while Jerome Powell insisted someone has to pay for the tariffs, the reality is that someone isn't you. It's foreign exporters footing the bill. Now, here's the kicker. That bill that they're paying, it's becoming extra federal revenue that the Trump administration is now using to bankroll what insiders are calling the most ambitious anti-cartel operation in modern U.S. history. That's right, guys. The same tariffs Powell called reckless are now a war chest that's about to hit the cartels in ways that they've never even experienced before. But this isn't just about military muscle. This is about exposing Jerome Powell's entire economic narrative on live television in front of the Senate. And You need to hear how this confrontation went down, because it left Jerome Powell cornered and scrambling for answers. Now, when you protect your Medicare benefits, you're not just protecting yourself, you're actually protecting your spouse, you're protecting your kids, your grandkids from the burden of unexpected medical bills. This is why I partnered with Chapter. Nancy told me that her $600 a year savings could be the reason why she's able to stay in her home. Sharon Bertusik, she got a zero premium, zero medication cost plan that dropped her copay from $89 to $20. Now, these aren't just numbers. These are actual lifelines. Make the call today. Make the call more for your family than you do for yourself, because, you know, your decisions impact your family. Phone numbers down below on your screen, 909-563-8279, or go to askchapter.org/Ron. It's totally free to make the call, and their service is free. Now, picture this, guys. Senate Commerce Committee, packed room, cameras rolling, Jerome Powell sitting under the bright lights, trying to defend months of warnings that tariffs were going to drive prices up. Then you got Senator Bernie Moreno from Ohio dropping the hammer. He pulls out the latest data that shows prices falling, not rising. Data that shows Powell's predictions were dead wrong. Moreno's question was simple, but it was devastating at the same time. Why did you find your voice when it came to Trump's tariffs, but you stayed completely silent during the Biden years? No outrage from Powell over the Biden administration's crushing COVID lockdowns that shattered supply chains. No outrage over vaccine mandates that forced workers off the job. No outrage over the LNG export bans that drove up commodity prices. None of that. But when it came to Donald Trump, suddenly Powell couldn't stop talking. Suddenly he had a crystal ball telling him tariffs would wreck the economy. It was a surgical takedown, and Powell had no real answer. So was it incompetence, or was it political bias against an America First president? Well, the irony, while Powell was fumbling through his defense, Trump was already moving to use his tariff win to solve a crisis Biden ignored for 4 long years. And that crisis has taken hundreds of thousands of American lives. So now let's talk about the real battlefield, our southern border. Under Joe Biden, the cartels were untouchable. They smuggled enough fentanyl to kill every American several times over. Over 260,000 Americans dead from fentanyl poisoning during his presidency. That's roughly 1,300 people every single week. And the cartels didn't just get rich. They made an estimated $13 billion in 2022 alone, smuggling both drugs and human beings into the United States. They expanded their operations into Canada, exploiting weaker enforcement there, and they began cutting China out of the picture, building their own fentanyl labs on Mexican soil. Biden's own border policies didn't just allow this, but it invited it. But President Trump, he's flipping the script. And so by classifying these cartels as terrorist organizations, Trump has now opened the door to the full force of America's military, intelligence agencies, and financial tools. So this means freezing cartel assets, prosecuting their associates, and hitting their networks wherever they operate. So this isn't just a policy shift. It's a declaration of war on the very organizations poisoning our communities. And Mexico knows it, which, by the way, is why their president is now caught between public defiance and private reality. Because the next part of the story kind of takes us straight into the brewing diplomatic standoff and the question of whether President Trump will need Mexico's permission to pull the trigger. So when the reports hit that Trump had authorized the U.S. military to engage Mexican cartels at the border, Mexico's president, Claudia Sheinbaum, she wasted no time getting in front of the cameras. Her message was blunt. We cooperate, we collaborate, but there is not going to be an invasion. The United States is not going to come to Mexico with the military. It sounded defiant, but here's the reality that nobody in legacy media will say out loud. Public defiance doesn't always mean private resistance. Behind closed doors, Sheinbaum knows the optics are bad. A cartel takedown that succeeds without Mexico's participation, this would be a political embarrassment at home and a disaster for her country's already shaky security image. So is her no invasion stance about protecting sovereignty, or is it about protecting her political base? And so here's the key question for you. If Mexico refuses, should America back down or act unilaterally to protect our people anyway? Because Trump's position is clear. America's safety is not negotiable. And thanks to his tariff policy, he has the economic leverage to make sure Mexico understands that cooperation is not optional. So this is really where the story comes full circle. The tariffs Powell predicted would devastate Americans. It's now paying for the largest cartel takedown in U.S. history. That revenue right there, taken directly from foreign exporters, not your wallet, it's being directed into military readiness, intelligence operations, and cross-border coordination. It's funding drone surveillance, surveillance of cartel convoys. It's bankrolling the technology that's needed to intercept the communications and track fentanyl shipments before they cross our border. It's financing the joint operations that will dismantle cartel labs in their own backyard. And here's the kicker. Powell said someone has to pay for tariffs. Well, someone is paying. And it's the foreign producers who've been gaming the system for decades, not the American families that he claimed it would be protecting. So that's the part that really has to sting for Jerome Powell right now, because it just proves his biggest public warning about Trump's trade policy wasn't just off. It was the exact opposite of reality. And this is also why this isn't just an economic win. It's a national security win. But how exactly is Trump's team going to be able to turn this funding into a 360-degree campaign that chokes off the cartel from every direction? I mean, that's really where things get even more interesting, and we need to talk about that. So this isn't a one and done strike. It's a coordinated campaign on every front. Trump's team isn't just sending in the military. They're hitting the cartels from every angle all at once. Militarily, U.S. forces, they're on standby in order to strike these high-value cartel targets, labs, storage sites, smuggling routes right at the choke points on the border. Precision raids, not scattershot policying, all right? Now, diplomatically, while Mexico's president plays tough in public, Trump's administration is applying carrot and stick diplomacy behind the scenes. Trade concessions, deployment aid, security guarantees are on the table, but so are tariffs. So are sanctions if Mexico refuses to play ball. Now, economically, tariff revenue is being used not just for operations, but for also dismantling the cartel's financial networks, freeze their accounts, cut off their laundering channels, seize their assets, starve them of cash, and you cripple their power. Supply chain warfare. The administration, they're targeting the source. They're cutting off China's chemical precursors through aggressive trade deals with Vietnam and other partners, making it very hard for the cartel to produce fentanyl at scale. Legislatively, Trump has already signed the Halt the Fentanyl Act, making it easier to prosecute traffickers and giving grieving families a better shot at justice. So this is really the definition of a 360-degree strategy. Military, economic, legislative, and diplomatic pressure all working together. And it's being executed by a president who's not afraid to use every tool available to protect the American people. But while Trump is moving like a chess grandmaster, Powell is still sitting on the sidelines, watching his economic predictions get dismantled in real time. But this actually brings us to a very big question here. So I want to lay it out plainly. So on the one side, you got Jerome Powell, the man who told America tariffs were going to crush you, now completely proven wrong by hard data and real world results. On the other side, you have Donald J. Trump using those very tariffs to both strengthen the economy and launch the biggest cartel takedown in U.S. history. So this is not just a contrast in policy. It's a contrast in vision, competence, and loyalty to the American people. So now you have to decide, was Jerome Powell simply wrong, or was his opposition to Trump's tariffs part of a deeper political hostility toward the America First agenda? Because if the strategy succeeds, if these cartels are dismantled, if fentanyl deaths drop, if America's borders are finally secured, then Trump will have done what the so-called experts said couldn't be done. Prove the economic policy and national security can work hand in hand to protect our nation. This could be the blueprint of defeating both economic and security threats for decades to come. So the only question left really is whether the people who fought him every step of the way will finally admit that they were wrong. And something tells me Jerome Powell isn't ready to answer that. Now, before you go, YouTube thinks you're really going to enjoy the next video that just popped up on your screen. And if you thought that this was explosive, the one that they're recommending right now takes it even further. Click that video, watch it, and let's see how deep this story really goes, because it connects directly to what we just covered, and you do not want to miss it.